Good morning. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Underground QA podcast, a podcast about quality assurance in the video games industry. My name is Chris, and my pronouns are he, him. And we have two fellow QA professionals joining us today, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Ariel Smith. I'm the QA manager of Paradox Tectonic, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hey, I'm Myron Parks. I'm the head of product at the Black Professionals in Tech Network, and my pronouns are he, him.
And you forgot to mention that you are high definition today.
Yes, I'm high definition 4K, but the sound is like 50-50 for like all the effects and stuff. So
Gotcha.
You know what? You got to give and take. It's just what it is. There's got to be some balance in there. You're gonna go all the way visual. Something's got to give.
Yes.
So today, if those of you who've been following our Twitter feed, we will be looking back at 1 year of the COVID work from home lifestyle. Now, according to Time, which is a theoretical construct created by humans, it's been 1 calendar year of social distancing and working from home. So we're going to spend today looking back on our feelings at the start of work from home life, how we've made adjustments in our schedules and work-life balance, and then looking forward to what things might be like as we continue in this work from home environment and coming out of it. Like, what is the future of this going to be looking like? So I think obviously a great place to start off with this is looking back to almost a year ago when we did our first stream, where it was Ariel, Myron, and Chelsea talking about this brand new work from home COVID life.
Yeah.
I think we spent some time looking back at that episode. So looking back and minus the cringe factor of being new to this stuff, like how did you feel looking back and thinking about how you were at the beginning of this work from home kind of life?
First of all, oh my god, the background noise on our first episode.
Right.
That was hard.
Oh jeez. Yeah, I mean it's something that really kind of struck me about it was how much less used to everything we were. Like we were like, oh my god, we're not going to be able to go out. We have no idea what's happening. Like when is this going to end? But now it's a little bit different because there's an end in sight, and you can start planning for a future beyond COVID. Like people are starting to plan conferences and stuff again. So
Yeah.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel now that wasn't there at the beginning.
That is true. That is a really nice feeling. I know my wife and I had that conversation of just that we can kind of start to breathe a little better and just start to think like, okay, we're actually going to be able to come out of it instead of like we will eventually, like it was back in the beginning of this. Like
Yeah.
we don't, where things were a little confusing, and even in the fall, it's like, all right, we're kind of more used to this, and we're going to get out of it eventually, but we didn't know. But now a year later, it feels a lot more like we could get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think one of the things too, like Ariel, you mentioned like the sound was like granted today there were some sounds that didn't happen, but like the background noise is like you notice that like all of us have like upgraded our like workspace too. Like all of us have like you know like and so we're used to it. We're all had at it.
Yeah.
And
I have an
frankly,
office now. I didn't have an office before.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I need one. So
and there's been a lot of growth too. Like I remember back when we did the first episode, I was lamenting whether or not my wife would be able to find yeast to try her new
yeast.
Yeah.
recipes.
Jump on that bread baking train, seriously.
Yeah. Then we were worried about like toilet paper and like worried about like paper towels and
The toilet paper thing was so weird.
That was wild.
I know, right?
Like of all the things, toilet paper. That like.
Whatever. Like I remember Slack threads where people were like, "Hey, Walmart's got this deal on toilet paper with large packages delivered to your home. Get on it right now." Everybody's scrambling.
Yeah, seriously. But like I think over the year, one of the things. So I'm looking at it like longer term because variants and stuff like that. I don't want to like pee on any hopes. I think things are getting much better and they're under control. But the thing that I look at how companies and teams have evolved, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there uh, for us to do things like that in the future. So it's a mixed bag, but I think overall there are some things that we've accelerated as a species uh, that uh, that I think are going to put us in a good position in general. Um, so, for example, I think for the next 5 to 10 years, just like the stock market over-indexed on like the smartest and brightest engineers
Mm-hmm.
before the several huge bubbles.
Yeah.
Now, then like most of the smartest and best and brightest humans went into making phone apps, and so I think what we can look forward to is the next 5 to 10 years of like the best people in the investment being in like, these pandemic things are like really sucky. Why don't we figure out how to iterate that stuff very quickly, so that we, get to like some kind of, method of like doing that better, and not doing it like our first podcast. Like, like,
Yeah.
like,
Like.
where's the volume? How do we ship this stuff out? Like, can you imagine those first Zoom meetings when they start trying to figure it out?
Yeah. I mean, my God, like we could barely do Zoom meetings just when we were in our regular office life. I
Yes.
mean, my God, it became an absolute process trying to figure that out.
You're muted. You're still muted. You and then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like the social cues are different, right? Like when your boss is irritated, your boss will say, "You're muted. You're still muted." Like that things are not going well because of the "you're still muted."
Yeah.
Because that's
Hmm.
one step before you're asked to, what, Myron, why don't you go ahead and just disconnect your mic and just hang in for this one.
Yeah. Just be a fly on the wall. Take
Yeah,
notes.
just be a fly on the wall this one. You're essentially, yeah. So like the social cues um have changed, and also we've all changed our roles either a little bit or a lot in this
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a big thing. I know just like with you, Myron, and you, Ariel, and also like Chelsea, like I think I'm the only one who's still in the same spot I was a year ago, which is kind of like, hey,
Right.
but like those big changes. But I think it's a little foreshadowing to a little
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
But I think I want to jump back, if you don't mind, to something that Ariel had mentioned about conferences being planned up again. Like no, so this podcast started initially as we were going to be a micro conference, and we were going to get a bunch of people together at your employer at the time, Ariel, and we had it all planned out. A couple like small presentations, going to be really cool. And then this all happened. So like, all right, talked a bit. How do we not lose this momentum and turned it into this podcast? But now you had mentioned like, oh, people starting to plan conferences again. So how soon have you seen that we're going to start doing conferences again? And if you haven't seen anything, when do you think we'll actually start seeing conferences again?
I think both PAX East and GDC are planning to do things in June
Hmm.
that are not going to be online only. So
I didn't hear about that.
it seems like June is, I don't know, is the new time where we'll start seeing conferences again.
June is the new March.
June.
Yeah, June's the new March.
That's like 9 weeks.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fast.
That's man. Okay, so like if they're like, yo, actually, we're gonna be combining PAX East, West, Prime into PAX really West, and we're gonna do it in Australia. I'd buy that ticket.
Yeah.
I go to
Australia?
Australia. Yeah,
Just
I go
because
to New
it's the
Zealand.
COVID rate is so low there?
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
yeah.
I
I
I
If
agree
they
think
would
the way
let
that,
the
us,
abducted is optimistic. That's a very conservative way to put that.
yeah, I think assuming the best case scenario,
Mm-hmm.
sure, you can start doing them again in June. Um, I don't think I personally am going to feel comfortable going to conferences until and until it's been a while since
Mm.
everything
yeah,
has dialed,
in a
right?
while.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to just do it like the first week everything reopens. Like
Yeah.
Especially, I can't imagine planning something for June right now. Because what if it doesn't work out for some
What?
reason?
Right.
You're like out all of the cost of planning and setting up. You have to start refunding people again. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
bold. It's real bold.
And especially
Um,
You
the
get
two
the second
conferences.
wave of vouchers, of travel vouchers. By the
Oh,
way, why is it that it's okay for them to not give us our money back still?
yo, I don't know. I don't
You
know,
get your
man.
second wave and your third wave of vouchers. Like, what the fuck?
It's
Like,
like, well, or just refund the money. No, I'm there with you. But I want like what Ariel had mentioned with like the two conferences that you mentioned, with like GDC and PAX East, just as examples of some things that there's rumblings of stuff in June. Like Myron saying that's only 9 weeks away. PAX East is massive. That is a massive thing. I don't know if either one of you have been to that one, but that one's huge. The conference center they get out is massive. They sell it out. Like that's from my home turf. And it's just, I don't see how they could possibly plan that, not only in 9 weeks, but then think we're going to be in an okay spot to let that many people, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, descend on it. That was so many nerds descending on this conference center. And it's just like I would be terrified, absolutely
yeah,
terrified. I was already a little squeamish watching last year's happen. This and seeing another one show up and so soon would be like I'm immediately like, nah, just wait till next March. Just wait till next spring. Do it over. And just like the conference center that they rented out, the amount of money that goes into saving that space. Ugh.
like
I'm like
seriously,
panicking thinking about this.
seriously, like a June conference of that size just
Hmm.
sounds like the beginning of a zombie movie.
it
There, I
wouldn't
said it.
surprise me if they were getting a deal on the space because conference spaces are probably anxious to have people hosting conferences again. Um, but yeah, real quick, PAX East is going to be June 3rd from to June 6th, and GDC is going to be July 19th to the 23rd. And PAX Australia, Myron, in case you're interested in it, it is October 8th.
Now
All right.
that seems like a reasonable timeline.
See, I see. Even though they have like no COVID, they're like, no, you can't have it until October, like because they're probably like, look, we need to make sure that these variants are under control, and
Hmm.
before we let anybody fly in from not New Zealand or fucking not like the three countries that are in our country bubble,
Seriously.
it's got to be October. And by the way, like prepare for your third wave of travel vouchers because we're gonna shut that shit off in a second. Um, yeah,
No way. Absolutely no way. Oof. Oof. Oh my
I think
god.
there's gonna have to be like a hybrid. Like, you know how
Hmm.
like for elections, especially for like underdog candidates, are like, look, why don't you have watch parties? And like so like you
Mm.
basically create like a platform where you can have like you know 20 people are connected with some kind of teleconferencing and you have like events that you work together you view together and there maybe there's some GMs that come to like to do some events
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
like that because like I've actually seen like some Twitch cons where it'll be like 20 streamers just like in a room like after the convention
Sure.
and for like several hours they'll be on there and they'll be doing their own content. I think it's going to have to be a hybrid like that. Like even when everything is fine and I'm comfortable getting on a plane again in 2024,
Hmm.
I like the idea of it being hybrid because there are speakers, there's education that happens, there's growth, there's networking
Hmm.
that you shut off when it's only the people who can afford 10,000 US dollars. And I think that's probably something that like Gen Con PAX has learned from this. Yo, like we get access to everyone.
Hmm.
Um, didn't we get into this to grow this community in the first place? Huh. You know?
Ooh. Get back to the roots.
Right.
I mean, I think that was part of the reason why our current conference was going to be a thing was we really
Hmm.
wanted it to make aside from the fact that there wasn't a lot of QA stuff on the docket for GDC that year,
Right.
it's just way, way more affordable for a QA person to spend $20 to go to a micro conference as
Yeah.
opposed to
Or pop
how,
on and watch the stream of it.
Yeah, and there were I think there were like at least two companies that were going to do a watch party of the
Yeah.
conference too, because
Yeah.
we were going to stream it for anyone who couldn't make it. Um,
I think we're on to something here, Ariel. I think that we're on to something here. Maybe if but maybe in 2021 we could pioneer a series of micro conferences and like literally like we could use this platform be like, all right, okay, cool, here's four micro conferences of 20 people each, and like we're just on here and we have speakers from each of the ones to like facilitate the activities, but like you actually get that industry, like there's something about being in a space with an aura
Hmm.
of people, because like that quiet person, you can tell if you're in physical proximity because you have a lot of senses as a human. If that person would work out on your team, or you could see yourself collaborating with them, and so there's something about that. Maybe we could do something like that. Like I'm sure I could find when 70% of the population is vaccinated,
Yes.
10
Lord knows.
people that I think would enjoy our content and that would be able to join the discourse in Toronto. Uh, you know, just some ideas, but I think it's gonna probably look like that in the future. And I think the
Ooh.
first community that gets it right is gonna have a shot at revolutionizing the way these things work.
All right, you heard it here first, everybody. During our impromptu brainstorm session, we are going to revolutionize it.
All right,
Thank you for
my
taking
riddle
notes,
just
Sarah.
kicked in, so like thanks for grabbing us and moving us forward, Chris. That was real smooth there. I
yeah,
see what you're doing over
the
there.
No,
revolution will not be televised, but it will be live streamed.
it'll
Yes,
absolutely be streamed on
yes.
Twitch.
No, I
Awesome.
mean, there have been a ton of online conferences this year. There's I
Mm.
actually I was looking up a website that just trying to find what gaming conferences are out there. It's where I found like
Hmm.
the dates for PAX and there's a list of all the different like game related conferences. Now, not all of them were development conferences. A lot of them were like fan cons and stuff.
Right, right.
And there was a list of like 20 different conferences that are happening in March around the world, and all
Hmm.
of them were like online, 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 online. So there's definitely like people have continued to do things even in the absence of being able to do things in person. Um, I am curious to see, like, I think what Myron is talking about is to an extent the next evolution uh, in conferences, in the sense that like we used to do it all in person, right?
Hmm.
Like that was the thing. And then we started to do these virtual like sessions, or things would get put up on a website where you could go watch them, sometimes for free, sometimes not.
Mm.
And then everything became digital. And now we're going to go back to, okay, well, we can do both. So I think there's still that appeal for doing the digital conferences. So I think you're still going to see people who are like, I just want to watch it on my computer at home.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah.
to go.
Exactly.
Um, and then there's going to be other people who are like, I miss that. Like I miss having conversations with coworkers at lunch, and I miss having, water cooler conversations about nothing. Cuz like I don't just have random conversations about nothing with my
Yeah,
coworkers very often
definitely.
anymore, right? Every meeting has a purpose.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
even our social hour has a purpose, right? Like
It's like
it's
we're here to
not like
focus on social conversations. We'll
yes,
talk about
yeah, it's
work.
not organic, right?
Here's
Like
the agenda.
it's just it's pre-planned.
Mm.
Um
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I really miss like walking down the hallway and just high fiving one of my coworkers. Be
yeah.
like, "What's up, guy?" Bam, just like, "What's up?" Bam.
And
What's going on?
people
They're,
build
oh, it's Rando. Get your hands ready. No.
yeah, get your hands
Get
ready.
your
I
hands
truly miss
ready.
that.
Let me see those hands. Um
Oh snap! Get your hands ready.
yeah. But yeah, I think people definitely miss the in-person conferences.
Mm.
But I think maybe some people realize they don't miss some of the in-person conferences. Like maybe I find myself really overwhelmed by the big conferences, and there's maybe only like a small percentage of the content at conferences that are like for me anyway.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
so I don't know. Like, is it worth it to spend like $5,000 or something like that to fly myself out to a conference, pay the fee to get in, and then go to maybe like 3 or 4 1 hour sessions. I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
I think the most valuable thing that would come out of that for me is networking.
Right.
And networking is something that can totally happen at a micro conference, and it's more likely to be with people you're interested in networking with as opposed to a bunch of people who have completely unrelated disciplines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think I personally can get everything I need out of a conference from a $20 micro conference, as we're calling them, as opposed to going to a larger one.
Right.
Mm.
And like one of the things that I realized recently is and this actually surprises people when I tell them, but I suffer from social anxiety. And so when I go to conferences, I'll literally be the person that like gets five of my friends to come to the conference I'm going to.
And then you hide
But
in your hotel.
once we get there, they're like, Myron, where are you? I'm like, I'm taking nap number 3. And they're like, but you took naps. I'm like, when I go out on the floor, it's really intense for me.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right, Ariel. I hide in my hotel. I hide in my hotel room. Like, and I wouldn't, I have to recharge. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
drains my
Yep. You
energy
got to get those hit points back.
very quick. Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
drains my energy very quickly. So I like at Gen Con is one of the things that I typically used to do a lot. I spend most of that like with my core group of friends. We'll do like maybe 2 like activities per day, and then the rest is a micro conference with 10 people that we all came there together and we do stuff together. And so I think if we made that official, what would that be like? How much more would that engage the community?
Mm. I like that thought. I do want to go back to what you're mentioning about like needing time to recharge and some of the performative aspects of like what we mentioned with like talking, having these like meetings all on video, everything has a purpose. And I think this kind of like moves nicely into the conversation of a work life kind of balance where sure we have this kind of easy for those of us that are able to work from home. It's very easy to be like, oh, I kind of just get up and I can go to get up for a little closer to when work is and go to work and step away and I'm in my house. But there's that line of like when you're working and when you're not working is blurring. And like for me at least, like Zoom meetings, like all that Zoom stuff, I've read some articles on it, I totally relate to it, about it's performative. I'm here being this version of me, not like in just a natural environment talking in a group. It's like, okay, I'm performing for the camera, I'm doing this thing. All right, cool, we've done our like 15, like 20 out of 30 minutes. Do we need the extra 10? Great, you all get it back. And then it's just as soon as I turn the camera off, it's just just trying to
Right.
pull myself back together. I use that futon a lot to take naps. I take my naps during a work day because I'm exhausted. So I want to hear a little more from you all about how it's been having your workspace and your play space kind of be the same now that it's working from home, and what strategies you've maybe put in to kind of still keep that line of work and life.
So for me, one thing is my partner and I moved, and we got a bigger place where I could have my own office. So I
Mm,
actually have a separate space to work in that is not doesn't have as many distractions.
right.
Um, Another one of my secrets, and I'm gonna hide the cam here for a dramatic effect. Um, is this is how I appear in play mode, right? So this is me in when I'm off the clock. I'm no longer working. I change the lights. We go into red light mode. I also have a pink version too. But this is not appropriate for work, right? This is. I mean, I'm sure my coworkers wouldn't care if I showed up pink on screen.
I know.
But, but like honestly, a little color change
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
helped me differentiate between uh, work and play.
Yeah.
Um, like, and I'm also my wife and I are trying to get my desktop PC set back up because it had a busted motherboard.
Hmm.
But as soon as we get that set up, we're gonna set it up in her room, in her office, because like since I'm separated, we're used to playing games together in the same room, but now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like in an entirely different room. So we actually have to use Discord to talk to each other because we're in different rooms. Um,
Mm.
but we want to go back to having that like shared play space. So once we get that set up, I'm gonna use my office just for work, and then I'm gonna do all my video
Mm.
gaming in the game room with
So
her.
like not only like for I love the lighting change idea. That's great. That's wonderful. But also being able to physically relocate yourself to another place. Like, all right, work is this play in this room, and I keep my work self here. But
Yeah,
then I can be play self, relax with my wife, and do the things that we enjoy doing together in this space to really
yeah,
have that mental break. That's kind of nice.
yeah. Um, so I'm really looking forward to having my home PC again. But for
Mm.
now, I'm basically just using my work PC in
Hmm.
my office. So I try to change the lights up when I'm working versus not working, and that's actually kind of helped. I also try to step away from the computer between working and playing
Yeah.
because it helps get you switched in to a different headspace. Because I found that when I didn't do that, like work and play would just start to like blend into each other
Yeah.
all the time,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and I'd get distracted while I was working, or I would start working when I like was off the clock,
Yep.
clock quote unquote.
Oh, when Slack is literally right there and just kind of click and you can jump in and answer questions, or Jira is like, oh, my VPN's still up. Well, I can just look and check on that Jira task, see if it was changed over.
Yeah,
It's too
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Like for me, so one of the things that I use a lot with my teams, and I feel very lucky that I like at the end of the last year like really dedicated myself to like learning a lot more about like coaching,
Hmm.
hmm
and so I use check-ins a lot, like I use check-ins a lot. So like what that allows me to do is allow other people to check in what their energy levels are, but for me to also check my energy levels. And before, like when I was in the office, I would only cancel a meeting if my foot didn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, or if I
Hmm.
was dying, or if I had like fallen on ice and hit my head, and the paramedics were like, "Yo, you might want to make sure that you rest for the
Yeah.
rest of the day."
Yeah.
That's what would have to happen for
Hey,
me to be
dude.
like, you know what? I'm canceling this meeting because I don't feel it. I
Yep.
can't give my all to this meeting, and we don't have a deadline,
Hmm.
so I'm going to
Hmm.
move that so I can just literally rest. And so rest can be any activity that replenishes your energy.
Mm.
Some days for me, resting is literally taking a nap. Other days is uh, walking around the apartment quickly, briskly,
Mm.
while I'm thinking through something.
Hmm.
Other days, it's literally playing Final Fantasy 12 for an hour. And
that's
so
funny. My wife has just started playing that.
that's my favorite Final Fantasy game. I love the Gambit system because you can automate anyway. But yes, yes. But like it is like you have to gauge your energy. When you're in the office,
Mm.
there are a lot of approved activities. So decades ago, approved activities were I'm going for a smoke break.
Yep.
Okay, cool, well done. Go for a smoke break. And so I would actually just, even though I didn't smoke, I would go and stand several times per day out there with the people smoking because that was an approved activity that you could do to recharge.
Hmm.
And decades later, it was let's go for lunch, let's go for coffee.
Yeah.
You can go
Yep.
to coffee 5 times a day as long as you don't call it lunch, and that's an approved recharge activity, right? And
Hmm.
so
I
now I've expanded what I consider to be an approved recharge activity,
I love this jargon. This
and
is this
that's
is
been.
the best thing.
You just reminded
You're
me.
like, yo, I'm writing this down. Like the social
A little
norms have
TM
to
on it and
change a
everything.
little
I'm
bit.
there.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
You just
uh,
reminded me how much I miss like just being able to go get coffee with a coworker. Like, hey,
Totally.
you need to recharge. I need to recharge. Let's
Hmm.
go get a coffee break. Um,
Yeah.
and that was something I could do with my directs, like really easily. Like I can tell that this person is having a bad day, or they're struggling, or they're stressed. Whereas when we're working from home, that can be invisible to me because they have the ability to keep it to themselves if they want to,
Yeah.
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're at the office, your directs, like, they can keep their thoughts to themselves, obviously, but like what
Mm-hmm.
they're feeling is way more transparent when you see them in person. So
Oh,
you can
totally.
check in with them and be like, "Hey, you've been like crying at your desk for like 2 hours. Do you want to go like talk about it?"
Right.
Would
Yes.
you
Yeah.
I noticed you're having a bad day.
But like that kind of thing would just go totally unnoticed
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
a work from home situation because you just you don't have a camera that you can spy on your your
Yeah.
directs at home, right? Like you shouldn't, but
Yeah, obviously.
just
I
just
know you say
right.
at
I
least
just
you
want to
should.
put that out there. You shouldn't do that. If you
You
do have
shouldn't.
a camera,
Right.
please
BT
turn it
dubs
off.
don't do this.
Right.
Um,
And you shouldn't do other things and say that the reason you were doing it is because you thought the camera was off, because that's not a good reason
Oh, yeah.
either.
anyway, uh, point being is like it's harder to really know how people are doing when
Mm-hmm.
they're working from home.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
I also think it's like it's also harder to like lose track of what people are doing. It's
Mm.
easier for someone that's you know working on a task to go off the rails when you're not like able to just like swing by their desk and talk to them about it.
Yeah, it's very, you have to be a lot more on and really purposeful over communication is what I've found to be the thing that's been pretty successful in work from home.
Yeah.
I've had two different teams that I've been working with over the course of this last year. My older team, where I had to shift a lot of just kind of like, I don't like to be the helicopter parent when I'm a lead. I like to give my reports a lot of ownership, which is important. It's healthy for them to feel like they actually have control over what's going on, and it
Yeah.
makes it easier for me because I can't. I don't have the brain space for this. But I've had to be. I haven't been a helicopter parent, but I've definitely been a lot more like checking in,
Hmm.
a lot more chatting, a lot more pinging and channels me like, hey, give me an update. Hey, give me an update, because I can't just like look over and be like, oh, this person's doing that. Great. I can see it and we're good. Everything's fine. Just a little, hey, you good? Yep, great. And move on. It's got to be a lot more deliberate.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to go back to that has helped me a lot, like Ariel, you had mentioned, and also Myron mentioned, like get up away from the screen for a little while, and that brings up the thought to me of discussed this and received this tip from my therapist. Hashtag mental health matters,
Yes.
and she mentioned that now that we work from home, we don't have a commute time anymore. We
Hmm.
don't have, even it's like commutes could be long. Like I used to have a 2 hour commute way back in Massachusetts when I started in games. I don't now, but it's still that time period where you can shift from your yourself to your work self, and then from work self out of work self back to just you and your home self. That time period doesn't really exist in a work from home environment, because you can literally fall out of your bed, drag yourself to your desk and turn it on and VPN in, and you're there. You're in work mode. There's no
Wait, wait,
transition.
wait, wait. Who on earth actually leaves their bed for work
Okay.
anymore?
All right. Fair, fair. And apparently I've made some mistakes in the last year, I guess.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made,
Time to
bro.
rearrange.
This is why you got to get a laptop, Chris. You just stay in
I
bed.
know. I know. So even better, just kind of roll over, reach down, grab the laptop, and log
Yeah,
in. But
yeah,
that commute is gone. So I've been working on ways to build that commute back in. Make sure there's time before, like, after I've gotten ready for work, I have some time to myself to really get into work mode, then log in. And then afterwards, I turn everything off, turn the light off, leave my room, and go do something else, like take a walk, go for a drive.
yeah,
There's some, like, I'm fortunate enough to have some like large parks that I can drive to and stay distanced from people, so I can go and be out in the fresh air for a while and give myself that commute in order to return to my home self. That has been extremely helpful in the last like year or so, and it was I'm glad that she helped me like figure out that one point, because
yeah.
before it's just like, I'm just going to work. It's never really crossed my mind. But it's a necessary thing, a necessary kind of reconnect and disconnect.
Yeah,
It makes
and
sense.
it's
Mm-hmm.
it's different for everyone. Like, um, you probably all heard me talk about Gallup Strengths Finder, or leading with strengths, or strengths based leadership in the past. But
Yeah.
if you have any tool that you've used in the past, that so you can identify like more about like what makes you tick, what you need
Mm-hmm.
in particular, it's important for you to get in touch with what you need. So like, if you need time to think, if you need time to be alone, if you need time to transition, figure out what that is for yourself and like make sure that you get that. And it's totally okay for you to tell your boss, who's also trying to figure it out most likely right now,
Mm.
so I need these things, so here's some things that I'm going to be doing to make sure that I don't burn out, to make sure that I can be the best that I can be, uh, given the fact that there's a plague going on right now also,
Mhm. Mhm.
footnote. But like, these are the things that I need to do, so like, work out your schedule and have that conversation with your boss or your supervisor and your team. Because right now, like, we can't take any of that stuff for granted. Like, when you were in the office, if you needed time to transition, you could just go hide in the quiet room or go for a coffee.
Hey, hey,
You seen
hey.
that meme from
Approved
WandaVision?
activities. Oh
I'm
yeah.
going for a coffee. Like you can, but now there's no equivalent to that. So like, it is perfectly. You have permission officially today. You heard
Mhm.
it here first.
Here it is, everyone.
to to negotiate what you need to keep going during a literal plague.
Absolutely. So here's a question for you all. On a similar topic. Do vacations and vacation time during this COVID lifestyle, does it hit like it used to?
No.
Yeah.
No, no. Like, even staycations don't, because
mm.
primarily because of the plague, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, um you can't just go outside and just like hang out, or like go to an area that's new and hang out. So like,
Mm-hmm.
when I travel, I like to go there and hang out. I don't like tend to like, like huge plans. So like, I
Yeah.
happen to be learning French, and so when my wife and I went alone to Paris, we just went and hung out. Or let me say, my wife, she went and like checked off all the boxes.
Sure.
That's her. That's what she needs to unwind.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
She needs to literally stress out on vacation so that when we get back, she can collapse into sleep so that she's ready and recharged somehow miraculously for work.
Yeah.
Me,
Oh.
I'll just go there, and if I go out, remember, anxiety, right? Social
Mm-hmm.
anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
If I go there and I talk with two people a day in French, I'm good. And by the way, because I do that, and I do that so hardcore, I dig like really deep. By the third day, I'm catatonic, because, yeah, if you ever learn another language, you get really tired. So, um, but so even on a staycation or a
Yeah.
vacation,
Yep.
obviously I can't talk to two random people every day, and so, or I can't go outside, or
Mm-hmm.
the plague is going on,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't hit as much as well as they did before.
For me, it's been like whenever I have my day off, then that is an opportunity for me to get caught up on my Eve Online work. Uh,
Nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
running
Mm-hmm.
running an Eve corporation.
Yes.
Um, so it doesn't really hit the same way. Uh, God, I would love to like go somewhere where I can turn off my phone and
mm-hmm.
disconnect from Wi-Fi and just be like, nope, I am unreachable this weekend. Do not even try. Um, but I really need to be able to go somewhere again. Like as much as I love just hanging out at home, and
Mm-hmm.
taking time off that way, it feels too similar to a work day because I'm still in the same place.
Yeah, you need
And
to be able to completely go to a new location, really like get away physically in order to
yeah,
truly feel you're on vacation.
Right.
I think my company is going to stay working from home for the most part for
Mm.
because Tectonic,
Mine too. Love it.
even before COVID, they had 2 work days a week where they actually went into the office, and there were a couple people who aren't even in the Bay Area, so it was
Mm.
still only like 5 or 6 people in the office a day at our 11-person company. Um, but ever since then, we haven't done it at all, and like most of the people in the company are like, "Yeah, this is fine. We don't really need that like in-person thing anymore." So maybe we'll go back to doing it just one day a week for like Mondays or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that we're probably going to stay working from home for the most part for the foreseeable future. And if that is the case, I'm going to start traveling more because I need to get the heck out of my house more.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Absolutely.
get out.
Yes, that's exactly. So, like, when I tell
Hmm.
people about the possibilities, and I kind of I teased it earlier, like there are possibilities for the future, right? Like, when I set my team up and I use and I build a system that provides me with a decisioning dashboard to identify what's going right and what's going poorly, I
Hmm.
can be anywhere. I can be in Paris, like you will for sure. 2024 and beyond. When I log into this podcast, you're going to see the Eiffel Tower in the background one day. You're going to see some fucking leaning tower shit the other day. I mean, that's why not?
I would
Why not?
love to have a different monument behind Myron every episode.
That would be awesome, right? Like, I
You're gonna
mean,
have to
but like,
switch cameras though, because otherwise it's just gonna be blurry.
I know.
right? Well, I mean, like, wouldn't that be like a dope challenge? Like 2024, we're still doing this podcast, and we
Hmm.
all go, okay, we're free. All right, what fucking like what quadrant of the planet are y'all gonna focus on? Like, it's once a month. Like, I think there are gonna be a lot of people. That sounds crazy
Hmm.
last year, but I actually don't think that sounds crazy. Like, I think there are people that are gonna do that because individuals, for one of the first times in history, have access to the global market versus only companies.
Mhm.
And so
Mm.
we get to be in any of those places because, my the where I work now has also committed to being completely remote, and they have one shared office space with 2 seats. But what that allows me to do is it allows me to go, okay, all right, I have 5 people in Montreal, so I'm going to go to Montreal, and we're going to have some stand-ups for this project. Oh, oops, we have 10 people in Florida, like 2025, probably. We have 10 people in Orlando, Florida. I guess we got to go out there and do the big strategic planning event. Oops, we hired 5 people in London. Y'all know we got to go to London to do the
So this is
Christmas
Oh
party.
how
darn.
this is how Myron starts hiring people based on where they're located because he wants to travel there. It's like, oh, you're from Japan, really?
Is
Okay,
that
great, yeah.
so? No, no, we'll
Yes,
come to you. Don't worry
yes,
We'll come
about
to
it.
you. We'll
yes.
come to you. It's good.
It's like, first question in the interview, can you open up your window and put your camera out there and just pan it?
Yeah.
Uh,
What's the weather like where you're
80
at?
degrees? Okay, all right, cool. So, second question. Uh,
Is
So
that normal for this time of year?
is that
Cool.
normal for
Great.
this time of
Great.
year? Yes, yes.
we really need to hire a programmer who lives in Hawaii. Okay, I just
Yeah,
want to put that is our
What you need.
criteria.
yeah,
You need that bridge between West Coast and Asian time. So this is
right,
great. This is great.
right. Think about, so like I mean, we talk in jest, but the opportunities are amazing. The opportunities are literally
Hmm.
amazing.
No,
Um,
that's
you
real.
know, like for my team in particular, I can think North America, the time band. So like Eastern time, I can hire people from literally Nunavut
Hmm.
all the way down to Texas. And so that's where I can get talent from in Eastern time, then Central time, then Mountain time, then Pacific. So the possibilities, particularly when you're starting small teams, are rather amazing.
Mm.
What do you mean by the different time zones? Like, are you aiming for a wider set of coverage or something?
No, like I mean, like so right now, so like I'm in Toronto, so we're on Eastern time. But when I hire for the Toronto office, it's only people in Toronto. But imagine if I had access to the talent pool to be on the same time
Oh, I see what you're saying.
from the tip of the,
Yeah.
the, the Arctic Circle all the way down, frankly, to the Caribbean.
Yeah, because like before, you might find someone that you really wanted to hire, but that person is unable or unwilling to relocate
Right? Yeah.
because
And
Oh
that's
no.
happened to me this year. Like I had to pass on
Yeah.
a really, really cool role because um, it was the beginning of COVID
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
couldn't, they hadn't evolved their organization um, to where they could handle hiring someone that was in a different time zone or different country.
Right.
Um, and so, in that case, I'm biased, of course, but I
Right.
think that team lost out. And so in Ariel will reconnect soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like when I hire, I get to hire. I'm talking to people in New York. I'm talking to people in Atlanta. I'm talking to people in Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
New Brunswick, wherever the talent is. And so, not only for me selfishly as someone who's looking for people on my team, but think about the idea that people can work where and with whom they want now. You can study anywhere. You can pick up any career no matter where you live. You can
Mm.
be in an iron town, but like beyond, on the internet, learning some skills and you're working with a team that's in Thailand. Um, so giving individuals access to the global market, I think is a really really strong, a big thing, and it's something that's accelerated about 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
based on what I was thinking before the plague hit.
Sure.
We're about 10 years further down the line to doing that because individuals like yourself and myself, we can actually apply for opportunities anywhere now.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have that experience working in that type of environment, and it doesn't seem to matter anymore or as
Absolutely.
much. But I'm curious though, like, do you feel like one thing that tends to be a bit of a hurdle with this kind of setup that definitely is something that we've hit on is the time zones and the time differentials with like making sure that teams can still sync up. And it sounds like you feel that's a really just it doesn't matter. That's just a fine trade off.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There's another thing that Lady Odd Duck said. Work for home opens up opportunities for people with disabilities, and didn't
Yes.
exist before, when everyone had to go into an office. And so, there's obviously visible disabilities,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also like neuro people who are neuroatypical, or not neurotypical. Like for me, I
Mm.
have ADHD, and like I can completely control my environment now, and it's amazing.
That's
And
true. Now,
so
it's curious. Like with ADHD, were you also in like an open office environment, and did that like make things difficult for you?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Because like so for me, it's so like um, well, my wife is an example. When you
Mm-hmm.
give her a task, she does it. Like she can find her flow immediately. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
machine. For me, I need 3 days of doing nothing, and then at the last minute, I'll just like put it all down
It'll
because
just
I
happen.
figured it out.
Yeah.
And when I find my flow, it's like physically painful if
Mm-hmm.
I'm stopped from doing the work because it'll take another 3 days for me to start again.
Yeah. It's like you can't pull me away from this for any
You can't pull
reason,
me
or
away.
else I have to finish the task.
Yes, I need to be able to activate my hyper focus and
Mm-hmm.
stay in it because if I get out, I'm out.
Mm-hmm. Totally get it. Totally understand. So yeah, having this environment with this work from home, I know it's been a necessity, but like going forward in the future, having it be a really serious, viable option can allow you to be more in that focus zone, um, and really take advantage of how your brain works in that way a lot more often instead of the like I've always been like okay with open office plans, but like now that I've had my own kind of room where I can close the door, turn on some music, and I can really like focus and get things done, plan stuff out, like it's been a boon. It's been really nice, and it's going to be hard going back to that office environment where things are running around, people running around, there's conversations happening. Maybe somebody is just laughing in the hallway, and it's enough to make me kind of look over and be like, what's going on? Great, now I lost my train of thought. It's not really your fault, but it's definitely your fault.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I understand. Oh goodness. Um, so one thing I did want to talk about a little bit was changing jobs and careers while we're in the middle of this pandemic, which I know a few of us on this podcast have experience. And Myron, you're definitely one of them. Like you've
Yeah.
changed jobs a couple times since
Yeah.
we started this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think I think just like I think anyone who goes from working uh, primarily in an office,
Mm-hmm.
through onboarding in particular. So there's like there's like working remote, and then there's like onboarding remote.
Right.
So like onboarding remote is a different experience. The first time was harder than the second time.
Mm-hmm.
The first time, you know, the company was trying to figure it out as well, but like I didn't know exactly how to integrate with the company.
Mm-hmm.
I was building a department as well, but like it was clear that the company was not fully ready to like onboard a department virtually
Okay.
because their expectations, which were reasonable expectations, was that in 30 more days,
Mm-hmm.
um, in 30 more days, we're going to be back in the office. So investing a lot of time into building a new onboarding strategy just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the second place I went, uh, they sort of needed me and the department there like 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot faster. The uptick was a lot faster. It was a
Ooh,
smaller
okay.
organization,
Yeah, yeah.
but the need and the demand for the department was a lot more intense. Um, so integrating, plus I had experience with it. Integrating the second time into a new system was awesome.
That's cool. That's excellent. Oh, we had Ariel for a minute.
Uh,
I wanted to get her take too. Yeah. I mean, I haven't changed jobs, but I have definitely had like large, like a organizational change and just the way that we're approaching like the development of the product and how our team is formed around that. And that has been a big upheaval, especially during work from home with all having to communicate. All right, we're going to redo all of this. These people are on this team now. This team, we're taking those members and splitting them off into these teams. Putting people in areas where they're not as familiar with it. So you have a lot of onboarding going on. It has been a lot of work, especially starting in like the January timeframe of us really moving into this kind of setup. Um, and trying to like get all of that organized in this environment and get my new team together, all talking to each other, their counterparts working together on their areas, me also learning different areas of the game that I had not worked on before, and as a lead, like trying to understand like, okay, these are the people who report to me now. Here's what they work on. I'm going to chat with their producers, chat with the leads on the engineering side of things, make sure I understand what they're doing. Um, all doing that in like a normal office environment would have been easy. I would have just gone and sat down and been like, okay, walk me through it. Open the editor, show me what you do. Uh,
right.
Go and just kind of high five the producer. I need to see like, hey man, what's up? Let's go chat. Or like go talk to the engineering lead and be like, hey, let's just have an understanding. I just want to see where you're at, where you see us being, and what you need from me. And it's been
Yeah.
so much harder,
Yeah.
so much harder to do
Yeah.
this in such like in a compressed period of time. So I feel like I have to do a lot more, a lot faster all over the internet instead
Yeah.
of like face to face, and that's been very difficult. It's part of the
But
reason why I am doing a staycation this coming week.
but I would say though, like it's just like acquiring a new skill. Like
Yeah.
the first time I did it, it was tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The second time, because I had experience the first time, I knew the kinds of conversations to have. I
That's
knew the
true.
kinds of expectations to set.
Yeah.
Whereas the first, just like when I got my first like professional job,
Mm-hmm.
too many decades ago, I was kind of like, okay, I just came from school, and so I'm assuming there's going to be like a homeroom equivalent, and someone's going to tell me what to do,
Oh man, homeroom.
right? And so like, like, and so like that was my expectation, like
Mm-hmm.
homeroom, the orientation session. There's an
Mm-hmm.
orientation homeroom. Everyone goes to homeroom
Yeah,
for half a
yeah.
day, and they tell you, hey, this is your cohort. None of y'all know shit together, but
Mm-hmm.
at least there's 12 people that can keep you occupied for the next 3 weeks until we figure out what work to give you. And so you can get to go get coffee with those 12 people.
Mm.
There's like there's like a brain trust of people who are figuring out the pieces, but you have like a cohort. Um, I think that's the biggest miss is that there wasn't a cohort that started with me,
Yeah.
and the company didn't invest in building that cohort.
Okay.
In person, they typically do that
Mm-hmm.
because you go through like depending on how long the onboarding process is or process is,
Mm-hmm.
It can be like a week to 3 weeks.
Just had to squeeze that in
I
there.
had to throw one in there. You know it.
It's not an episode until we get one.
Right. But it can be a week to 3 weeks where like you're brought around in the homeroom
Mm-hmm.
to like to get to know the company better as well. Homeroom, you're exactly right, Friesman.
Oh man, haven't thought of that in so long. It's amazing. So Ariel, we were touching on changing jobs, and that has happened. Like, you not only have moved, but you also changed jobs since we started this, and discussing the experience of changing during the pandemic.
Yeah, sorry I dropped out. The circuit breaker that my Wi-Fi is connected to died.
Ooh,
Oh,
what a specific area! Like pop. Oops.
Well, yeah, so my wife and I both have like space heaters in our room,
Oh,
and
okay.
space heaters are connected to the same circuit breaker.
Mm-hmm.
So she turned up the power on hers, and
That'll do
that
it.
caused it
turn
to
it up to
die. So,
11.
um, yeah, so I switched jobs. God, when was that? Back in November.
Mm.
Um, and it was interesting because at my previous job, like these were all people I had worked in person with. With the one exception, I hired someone during the pandemic, so I never actually got to meet her until my last day. Me and her and our other tester decided, screw it, we're gonna get lunch together. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
just because it was just so weird that I had someone who I'd worked with and literally had never met. Um, so that was great. But and my new job is yeah, it's been almost entirely work from home. So this company
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like used to it a bit more than Extra was, because Extra was really flexible and they let
Mm-hmm.
people work from home as often as they needed to, but there was still an expectation that people would go into the office when they could. So um, I think I worked from home like once or twice a week on average at Extra. Um, but the transition is weird. Like starting at a company where you don't actually get to like meet people in person is something else. Um, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about it exactly.
No, it's
Um,
wild. It's wild. Doing like I'm glad you mentioned about like onboarding stuff like over the internet, because I've had to onboard help, or at least help onboard two people during this pandemic, and it's wild.
yeah,
It's so difficult. So being on that end of the onboarding process, especially in an area a I don't know. I don't know where my brain was going. It still just drives me. It's still like I'm exhausted thinking about it.
yeah. I will say that there's an interesting difference in the dynamic between a team that always works from home versus a
Mm-hmm.
team that is learning how to work from home. So
Right.
what one thing that was different is like both teams that I've been on have like a social hour on Friday, where every Friday people just kind of like jump on, they kick back and talk about whatever. Don't talk about work. That's like the main rule, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a very small percentage of people that did that at Ectra, whereas at Tectonic, like just about everyone does it every week. And I think it's because like that is normal for them. That's been how they've been doing their socializing as a company since their inception. Whereas Ectra had to add this thing later on. So it wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
integrated into their culture, and I think people just never quite got into it for that reason. I think there's certain aspects of being a work from home company that are different than being at a company that is currently working from home.
Mm.
Um, and it'll be interesting to see what directions people go, because I think more people are going to start leaning into the no, we are a work from home company.
Yeah.
And I think that is a stronger model for a team as opposed to being a company who works from home, because that feels like you're just doing it temporarily as
Right.
opposed
Yes.
to finding long-term solutions
Right.
and really changing your culture.
Right.
But I think a lot of companies don't want to. They don't want to be a work from home company. They want people in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is just temporary. And the very second they can go back to having people in the office, they're going to.
Mm.
Um, But I don't know. Like, do you guys miss the office?
No.
um, for me, it's a mixed bag. I do miss it. I do miss being able to go and talk to my team directly, just to get that stuff out of the way. I do miss running meetings in person, because it just feels a little more natural to me. It feels less performative, um, and I feel more exhausted during this
Hmm.
work from home stuff. I feel like I have to push a lot harder, especially in video calls and things. So I'll miss having my own room, but I would like to be in the same area as my team.
Yeah.
Myron,
I
you want to? Myron said no. Do you want to
oh
expand
yeah,
on that,
Myron.
or?
Oh yeah. So
Snow.
like I don't miss having a centralized office.
Hmm.
And so by office I mean like a shared workspace, and that can mean anything. That can mean okay, all right, cool. I have a team. I've constructed my teams to have the pods or the scrum team to be 9 people, and so we have to do a huge planning for the release. So let's rent the library and go there and be in person for this thing that we'd like to do in person.
Okay, yeah,
So
like
let's
plan
actually go out to the beach because why not? And
as we
we
can.
do our retro there.
Yeah.
Or let's go to this place that's actually more centrally located to where we all live, and like go at 2 p.m. so it's not rush hour,
Hmm.
and do this planning session. So that's what I mean. Like I
Yeah.
don't think 4 hours of preparing for and commuting every single day are useful for
You
How about
know,
you, Ariel?
um well, I definitely miss the office. I
Hmm.
don't miss going into the office every day. Um you
That's
know,
fair.
Unknown Worlds actually shared our office when I was at Extra, but they only had like 3 or 4 people who came into the office, at all, and everyone else worked remotely. And so what they did, this was all pre-COVID too. So like when COVID happened, they were like, "Yeah, this is fine. We're totally used to this."
Hmm.
Um, but what they used to do is they would do week-long retreats. I'm sure they still do,
Sure.
but they do week-long retreats with the whole company, so they can actually get together and get some FaceTime and hang out, and they talk about work and do team building stuff. But a lot of it is really just kind of getting FaceTime with each other, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I would love to do stuff like that, or like maybe quarterly, 2 or 3 day like sync ups or something where
Mm.
I like having that in person time with people. I just really don't like commuting every day, and I would
That's
I
fair.
would really like to be able to
Yeah.
like not commute anymore, because I know you're talking about how commuting helps you get into the work headspace, but
Hmm.
like gosh, it feels like just so much wasted time now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It can
time,
feel.
energy.
Yeah, it's another piece that you have to push yourself through in order to complete your workday. Instead of just, yeah, it's really hard, especially if you have to do multiple modes of public transit, or if you have to drive yourself. Like, that's a lot. I
Yeah.
think, when yeah, I totally get it. All right,
Oh,
this has
Nick, I,
been.
I
Oh.
totally know what you mean. He said meetings are getting better prepared for. At the office, we always had battles for conflicting access to rooms. It drove me crazy that I used to reserve this conference room in
Hmm.
our building frequently, because it was like close to where we were located, and it was a perfect size,
Right.
and it had everything we needed in it. But on the project I was on, the EP, for whatever reason, routinely said that like that office or that conference room always had to be available for his team to be able to jump in and use it. So even if I reserved the office, I would get booted. My team and I would get booted out of it because someone else more important than me needed it, and it drove me up the wall. And I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with shit like that
Yeah,
anymore.
that is a great point. Absolutely great point. Like, you can just have a meeting and not worry about having to hunt down a room or a couch in a hallway. It's just like, all right, let's just jump in here, have that chat.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. Meetings are easier to schedule.
Hmm.
I think there's some aspects of like work that are just easier to make happen when everyone's working from home. But yeah, I miss going into the office at least some of the time. I'd love to do it once a week, maybe once a quarter or something, some
Mm-hmm.
regular frequency of actually seeing people. But not I'm not attached to going in every day at
Yeah.
all.
And then the central location. I would be like, okay, all right, everyone, where do we want? What is the central location to where we are? Because the downtown one is that's the 2 hours each way. So like, what do y'all want to do? And maybe we do that for planning sessions. Maybe we do that for the sessions that are specifically doing team building.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like actual team building, not something that takes away from productivity during the middle of the day. You know what I'm saying? You know how they say like,
Not just trust falls.
yeah, yeah, it's like absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if retros and planning were more meaningful now? Because we could go to them at like 11 a.m. and miss traffic, and we were all focused on doing that because we're only doing that in person once every 4 weeks. So these are
Mm.
questions that I'm thinking about as I think about like the future of making
Yeah, yeah.
really forming really strong, dope teams
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
stuff.
It's been a wild year, and there's going to be definitely some changes and some things to think about going forward as we start creeping back to or creeping into like what would be the new normal now that work from home life has happened as long as it had. All right. Well, it's about that time, and we're this one's a good one. We want to talk about the our bug of the cast, or
Oh
bug.
yeah,
So this one now, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, like Valheim has become the hotness for a while.
The
I know
hotness.
I've had my time in there. My little Viking group, my sister and I have been playing. We have our little house on the coast, and it's great. We recently built shields, so it's been real fun walking around with axes and shields. We're very early on. I've seen people with their massive castles with walls all over the place. It's insane. I want to get to that point, but for now, I'm just kind of derping around with my little wooden house. But one thing that we saw on Twitter, it was posted by at Glitchwitch, um, and what they said was, I learned today that players in Valheim are noticing, and this is the beginning of March, like March 1st,
yeah.
2021. I learned today that players in Valheim are noticing their boats missing or flying. And what they noticed was the truth is the birds, in parentheses like seagulls, are landing on boats, and a bug accidentally places the boat under the bird control, which means the bird lands on a boat and flies away with it, thus stealing the boats.
Yes, get
uh,
wrecked. The boats.
Hilarious, absolutely hilarious. um, Polygon picked up on this and looked into it and actually received some message from saw part of the conversation. I think it was an Iron Gate rep had seen this bug posted about and said, and I quote, in regard to the bug in the tweet you shared, it's not real, haha, exclamation point. Interesting to see how such traction that tweet has received about glitches. So there was a glitch which saw one object get the data of another. So for the above example, a bird could have gotten the data of the ship, thus a player could have experienced a flying ship, but it's not a ship stealing birds. So it sounds like
Yeah,
So the
the
ship
article was
flew away by
titled.
itself.
yeah. So it wasn't just like the birds are like able to swoop in and be like, yeah, it's mine. It's just like something happens where the assets trade data and the
Yeah, the
the ships fly off.
they take on the trait that allows them to fly, and I think they might have taken on some of the traits that uh told them to fly, like their behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the
Um,
AI that controls it.
yeah, but the article for from Polygon, in case anyone's interested, it is called "Valheim Birds Are Innocent of Boat Thievery," says developer. Subtitle: Justice for the Birds.
I'm glad we could free them of this wrongful accusation.
Yeah, those poor birds. They had it so rough.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But per usual, if you do have a bug in a game that you are particularly fond of, please send it along to us via Twitter or talk to us in our Discord. We'll happily bring it up and laugh about it on,
Oh my
on one of our
god.
future casts.
This reminds me, when I was working on Just Survive, there was this trash can on one of our new levels that
Hmm.
was appearing like up in the sky. And I don't know what caused it to get up there, but kind of became like a mascot for the community. Everyone called it Trashy the Trash Can, and there were some people who were like building buildings that would like take stairs all the way up to Trashy so they could sit on Trashy and take a picture of it. When we finally fixed it, we said something like Trashy the Trash Can has landed instead of saying he's no longer floating.
Oh.
Oh, I love it. I love that stuff so much.
Freezeman said about the previous bug, birds aren't real. The government is stealing your boats.
That's right. That's right. It's the government conspiracy in the in Viking limbo.
But Trashy the Trash Can has landed.
Yeah. It was, oh
That's
man, it was so good.
All right, friends. So that's going to be it for us today. I want to thank both Myron and Ariel for joining us on the podcast. We'd like to thank our audience also for listening and for joining in on Twitch chat. We wouldn't be doing this podcast without you. So if you have any suggestions for future topics or bugs of the day, like I mentioned, we'd love to hear from them. If you are a QA professional and would like to be on the podcast, we would love to have you. In either case, please contact us at undergroundgameqaconf@gmail.com or reach out on Twitter at undergroundqa because we'd love to hear from you and we'd love to collaborate. So before we go, the usual chance to plug. Ariel, anything to plug this time?
There's a Korean movie called Space Sweepers on Netflix. I highly recommend. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like the Korean version of Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, in a way.
Nice.
I will absolutely watch that. That's an awesome plug.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
How about you, Myron?
I want to plug meaningful, intentional check-ins. In the absence of being able to see what's going on with your teammates and the people that work either for or with you, normalizing meaningful, intentional check-ins will get you closer to that.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you. I would like to plug, I know we mentioned that they don't hit like they used to, but please take some time off. You need time for yourself. That line of work from home, of work and life is blurring a lot still a year later. So please make sure you are making a very solid line and giving yourself time for you. Hashtag mental health matters.
Yeah, I'm actually planning to take a extended break up to Portland to visit my family because I have not seen them in over a year. Which is
in a similar boat. My wife and I
batshit crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's insane. It's completely insane. It's nice that we can kindly see some light at the end of the tunnel, but
yeah.
And with that, thank you everyone. Thanks again for joining us. Keep playing, keep testing, keep washing your hands, and keep wearing your mask. We're almost there.
Just hang in,
Hang in
and
there,
don't.
friends.
As a friend of mine said to me recently, don't be the last person to die in a war.
Yeah, that's good. Don't ever be that last person.
Right.
Hang in there, friends. We're almost there.
We love you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Love you. Bye. Love you. Bye.